Hey, so I'm excited to show you something that I've been working on for the last week. And what it is a complete overhaul of the MCP tool that makes it faster, more reliable, and way easier to use. So if you've been using the Snappy MCP tool, then you're probably going to be happy when you see this. And if you haven't used it yet, then maybe this will make you want to use it. So the problem was that using the original MCP tool, it has over 100 individual tools, which is great for full coverage, but it creates some issues when it comes to size limitations for certain AI clients like Cursor and token consumption because it eats up the context window and a little bit of complexity. Like the AI sometimes had to figure out which of the tools was best to use. And after building several MCP tools and MCP servers and then seeing these patterns, I figured that there had to be a better way. So what I did was I rebuilt it from the ground up. And before, if I actually just come into here, this is a version of the tool that actually has the old and the new together. But if I go through this list, this is just what it looked like before, right? You can see, just keep going down. And there are a lot of functionalities. And as I get towards the bottom here, there are these middleware tools, which are consolidated. So instead of having separate tools for everything, then these are consolidated functionalities. So for example, Discover Workspace has the ability to list the instances, list tables, list API groups, list functions, all within one tool. So that way the AI can specify what it wants through the parameters and then just discover the workspace through that one call. So let's maybe give that a shot. Let's see what happens. All right, so what I've designed is basically an MCP friendly middleware that sits between the AI and Xano. And you can see that it's able to see from through that one tool call all the tables that we have in this demo system and the API groups. So like I said, this is a single tool call that handles multiple operations, and the middleware interprets and optimizes this request to the benefit of the user and the AI client. But what I think is actually more interesting than this is what I'm going to show you now. So let's put in another prompt. And what I'm going to get it to do is to try to build some endpoints right now. So it's actually just building a table first. All right, so you can see that it created 5 endpoints pretty much instantly after it created the table. If I actually go into here, you can see that we have a new group and it's called Post Management API. And here are the endpoints. So if I go into these, you'll see that they have the proper table references, they have the inputs which match the table. And if I go into, for example, listing records, and I look at how it's querying the records, it's setting up the pagination, the filters, and the search, making it all configured. So it's following the best practices and leveraging Xano to its strength as a visual builder. And so this is a solution to the problem of how AI struggles using XanoScript, which is a proprietary language developed by Xano. And also, this is a lot more efficient because instead of how it used to be, where it would take multiple attempts and thousands of tokens, this is just, in the best case, just one attempt and just a fraction of the tokens that would be necessary if it was generating all of the XanoScript itself. And also the quality. AI generated XanoScript often is not going to be leveraging Xano's strength, and that's all to the benefit of the user and the people using this. So in order to solve this, I built something that would make it possible, and what that is an SDK that generates optimal XanoScript. So this is what that looks like. So instead of having complex XanoScript, which doesn't have any guardrails or any type of direction on what would be the best practices, because it's just language that the AI can, from its point of view, use anyway. I've created this SDK which allows you to leverage JavaScript-like code in order to define what XanoScript do we want to be returned. And so the SDK generates this XanoScript using the practices that end up with optimal design on the Xano side, let's say. So, for example, daisy chain filters might look ugly or hard to read when you look at it in terms of how that represents itself in XanoScript. But when you actually submit that to Xano and you see what it turns into, it actually looks best because it is using Xano the way that Xano intended. It's leveraging Xano to its strength automatically, and it's just making those operations much more simple instead of doing it in a complicated way. So the middleware also has intelligence, like how it handles errors. So if you're trying to create endpoints in a group that doesn't exist, it won't just fail. It'll actually create the group. So this group didn't exist before. What it did was it checked to see, does this group exist? And if not, then let's create the group. And so that saves an extra step, right? When it comes to the AI client trying to get what it wants, because we can assume that the group will have to be created if it doesn't exist yet. And so this is just a very high level view of what the changes are, which are very vast. But overall, when you put all this together, you get fewer API calls, you get a massive reduction in tokens being used, and you also get almost instant endpoint creation. So what used to take hours can now take seconds, and now works. I imagine everywhere because with the tools being consolidated, it can work with other clients, AI clients that have limitations on the number of tools you can have. So now we can have less failed XanoScript attempts, and I think that this tool represents how we should be building on Xano, basically just saying what we want and having it appear first time, every time. And I'm still refining the solution and I'm planning to release it probably by early next week, I would say realistically. And the current version is already available, but this new version will be available soon. And that's all. Just thanks for watching. And I'm looking forward to sharing this with the community and just seeing how it helps everybody. So have a good one.